ESM Go and Mrs. Go, Professor Houston Kwa, President of the Economic Society of Singapore, Excellencies, friends and colleagues. Very good evening to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to join you tonight. And thank you, Houston, for your very kind words and for this honor from the Economic Society of Singapore. It is humbling to be considered alongside 5 other honorary fellows who are all distinguished individuals. One of them, ESM Go, is with us tonight. I believe ESM will agree when I say our work cannot be done without the support of our colleagues and partners. I would like to attribute this honor to the strong spirit of teamwork and public service I have been fortunate to encounter in many others throughout my career. I hope to continue in this spirit, not least with the ESS. The ESS has done good work in fostering public discourse on economic policies. I appreciate the ESS ideas to the Committee on the Future Economy. There are thoughtful suggestions that fed into the CFE's work, such as your call to help SMEs to adapt to the digital economy. I look forward to continued rigorous practical insights and suggestions from the ESS and contributions to robust economic policy making and to building our future economy. When Houston invited me for this event and told me that I didn't have to pay for the dinner, I thought, well, I must be expected to do something. They said, well, you have to give a speech. So when I realized that this was not a 3-course dinner, but a full Chinese dinner, my speech got longer and longer. And I didn't realize that in the audience are many of you who have sat through a whole day of discussions, and many of you come from different time zones too. So I fully understand if I sounded like singing a lullaby later tonight, and if you fall asleep, it's okay. But this is going to be a long speech. Now, when I last spoke at an ESS annual dinner, I touched on the effects of the global financial crisis, structural changes in the global economy, and how we should respond. Now, that was only 4 years ago in 2013, and global uncertainty has risen significantly since. The rise of ISIS and the increase in terrorist incidents worldwide, North Korea's missile test, Brexit, the US withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership are just some examples of events that have raised uncertainty. In some advanced economies, political support for globalization has given way to nationalism. The future is uncertain, a complex configuration of both short-run challenges and long-run trends. Even as we address the immediate pressure points, we should anticipate the long-term changes. Now let me identify some of this. First, our population is aging. This means higher healthcare expenditures and a decline in our domestic labor force, which will affect our growth rates. Other economies, including China, Japan, Korea, and the EU, are facing the same. And in comparison, there are many other countries in Asia with youthful populations. Now, whether this will translate into a population dividend depends on how well they educate and develop their people, and if new technology trends will enhance or diminish this advantage. The second change is a global slowdown of productivity growth and the impact of technology. Economists have been grappling with the solo paradox. You can see the computer age everywhere, but in the productivity figures. Various explanations have been put forth to explain the global slowdown in productivity growth, including the rising importance of the domestic services industries, which tend to be less productive, underinvestment in capacities and structures, the slow and patchy diffusion of best practices, and the lack of competitive pressures to channel resources to their most productive use. I mean, the gap in productivity between frontier firms and laggard firms in many sectors across the world is quite a puzzle. There are also different views about the impact of technological progress on productivity and jobs. On one side, Robert Gordon studying the total factor productivity in the US economy over the past century, concluded that technological advancements in recent decades, including the rise of ICT, have paled in comparison to the 5 great inventions that drove substantial growth from 1870 to 1970: electricity, urban sanitation, chemicals and pharmaceuticals, the internal combustion engine, and modern communication. Recent technology just has not lifted growth and productivity as much as past advancements have. Now, on the other side are the techno-optimists. Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee advocate for the potential of digitalization and automation. For example, they see large economic potential of online platforms, citing Tom Goodwin's observation that large companies like Facebook, Airbnb, Alibaba, and Uber do not own or make the underlying assets from whose value they profit. And others call data the new oil, perhaps even more valuable and powerful. Klaus Schwab describes the fourth industrial revolution as a confluence of emerging technology breakthroughs, not just in ICT, but also in material science, biotechnology, energy storage, and others, which interact across different domains. It is not certain what the overall impact of technology will be. But what is certain is that countries that are prepared for technological change will be at the greatest advantage. A third trend is the rise of emerging economies. Attention was previously on the BRIC economies. More recently, the limelight is on Asia, which holds 2 of the strongest growing economies, China and India. Studies suggest that the shift in the world's economic center of gravity to Asia may be accelerating. The IMF's latest forecast places Asia at the top of the global growth of league table. Now, though there are other trends to consider, each of these alone will have profound impact on a small, open economy like Singapore's. We won't feel the full effects of these trends tomorrow, and no one can predict the future. But we can prepare. When the Committee on the Future Economy considered these trends and discussed possible responses, there were some who sought to bet on new growth industries, new technologies, and new markets to go into. But in a fast-changing, unpredictable world, there are no shortcuts. What we need is a sudden shift in orientation, a readiness for change, and a willingness to try, learn, and try again. Last year, in the midst of the CFE work, I met the CEO of a food company that was doing well, along with several of his competitors in the industry. So he told me, years back, an official told us that we were in a sunset industry. We wanted to prove him wrong. So we worked hard, we worked together. There's no sunset industry, only sunset thinking. I applaud his fighting spirit. And I've continued to reflect on the food manufacturing sector's experience. Whether a firm or an industry will succeed is not preordained. It depends on our mindset and how we build competitive advantage. Our economy's competitiveness and ability to create good opportunities for our people rests on a set of interrelated factors. First, we need to maintain macroeconomic stability and have a well-functioning financial system that channels savings to productive users. Now, we've done this well in recent years, keeping inflation at bay through effective monetary policy while maintaining fiscal prudence. Our financial system has also continued to innovate to meet the evolving needs of the modern economy. Second, we need strong microeconomic foundations that allow resources to be allocated efficiently across firms and individuals in an equitable and sustainable way. We have and must continue to make our regulations more pro-business, tweaking them to encourage innovation and risk-taking while protecting the interests of our people. And third, we must encourage our individuals, firms, and industries to build deep capabilities so that they can achieve sustainable competitive advantage to adapt and thrive in their fields. This third factor, capabilities, is what I will focus on today. At their core, the recommendations of the Committee on the Future Economy are about keeping our economy globally connected and building deep capabilities, both horizontal capabilities across the economy and vertical ones within each industry. By bringing all key stakeholders together to create industry transformation maps or ITMs and to build capabilities, we can better address the challenges and opportunities in each industry and the entire economy. While we cannot predict the future, strong corporate and human capabilities give us the best chance of riding the waves of changes ahead. So let me start with our firms. Firms need two main types of capabilities to be competitive, particularly in a time of change. One, distinctive firm-specific capabilities to differentiate themselves from their competitors. And two, industry-wide capabilities that benefit all firms within a sector. Now, first on firm-specific capabilities. A competitive firm creates unique value for its customers in cost-effective ways. There is no formula for this. Every company must develop its own. But there are some broad areas that we heard about during the CFE's industry consultations: human capital, innovation, including the use of technology, and internationalization. I'll speak more on human capital later. Let me first discuss innovation. The ability to create new products, services, processes, or business models that create new value gives companies a competitive edge. In recent times, the rapid growth of some startups has captured public imagination, and innovation is often associated with startups. But large companies need as much, if not more, innovative capacity. Beyond in-house development of new products and services, companies are also setting up corporate venture funds and incubators so as to discover, work with, and invest in promising startups. We see this in the pharmaceutical industry, where large companies are licensing drugs developed by smaller startups. Also in Silicon Valley, where promising tech startups get acquired by larger players. The value chain for innovation is changing. Some startups may choose to develop themselves fully, while others may partner established companies to commercialize their innovations. ST Engineering, for example, has launched a corporate venture capital unit and started an open innovation lab called InnoSparks in Launchpad at One North. And I was just speaking to Mr. Vollier, who was seated next to me from Capgemini, and that you have a number of innovation centers all over the world, including one in Singapore. Now, in time, companies can make use of the Global Innovation Alliance to extend their innovation network overseas. In fact, as part of our Global Innovation Alliance effort, Block 71 Jakarta was officially opened just last week. Another way to innovate is to use technology. Firms can adopt existing technology to improve productivity or adapt technology to changing their business models and disrupt industries. Others may invent technology and create intellectual property. Now, we should encourage a variety of approaches to innovation, including the use of technology, and create some flexibility in our regulatory frameworks, like regulatory sandboxes which the Monetary Authority of Singapore has started to allow new things to be tried. Another important corporate capability is the ability to internationalize. Technological advancements and trade liberalization have reduced distances and extended companies' reach to resources and customers. Companies need local market insights and outreach capabilities to tap on a larger potential market that emerge as a result. Technology allows big and small firms alike to expand into the region and the world. So from startups like Carousel to large enterprises like CapitaLand, Singapore firms are doing so. Beyond firm-specific capabilities, industry-wide capabilities also matter, and companies can cooperate to help build this. A few years back, when I was in the Ministry of Education, I visited a company in Switzerland that was training about 100 students to operate complex machinery. But the company needed only 60 new recruits. The remaining 40 would go to their competitors. Now, why would a company train for its competitors? So the CEO explained to me that there would be an industry-wide shortage of talent otherwise, and a shortage would affect them all. It was, for me, a lesson in competing and cooperating at the same time. So in Singapore too, industry leaders have taken encouraging steps. You may be familiar with the Tech Skills Accelerator, or TESA, which trains ICT professionals. About 2 years back, members of the Singapore Infocom Technology Federation, or SITF, and the Singapore Computer Society told me they were facing a shortage of strong ICT talent. So I asked them, would you be willing to work together? While government can help provide resources, but you as an industry know best what skills are relevant. And they said yes, and the competitors work actively together with our agencies to form and run TESA. I was impressed by this, and even more impressed to read recently that over 10,000 professionals have benefited from TESA's programs. Companies can now hire from a deeper pool of talents with relevant skills, and I look forward to seeing TESA achieve even more. Our trade associations and chambers are also important in building industry-wide capabilities. So I'm glad that they too are actively collaborating. For example, more than 20 TACs will share facilities and resources in the Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industries Trade Association Hub, which will officially open soon. Some industry leaders have asked me if our economic agencies can also improve our coordination to provide more integrated support in areas such as helping companies to build capabilities and to internationalize. And these are valid comments, and we are studying this. And indeed, collaboration is the spirit of the industry transformation maps. Each industry transformation map gathers the stakeholders, companies, trade associations and chambers, unions, research institutes, training providers, and government agencies to formulate and implement strategies to develop the industry and its capabilities. And these different capabilities cannot be considered in isolation. Each industry will need a different configuration of capabilities. By bringing all stakeholders together, we can implement changes more effectively. Beyond each single industry, we should also explore developing capabilities across different industries. And that's why we form 6 clusters of related industry transformation maps. To sum up, to compete in the future economy, our companies will need firm-specific and industry-wide capabilities. To develop firm-specific capabilities, companies should consider investing in internationalization, innovation, smart technology use and development, and others which can add to its strengths. And to develop industry-wide capabilities, companies can look beyond their individual pursuits and collaborate with others, both within their industry and across industries, for mutual benefit. Contrary to classical view, the marketplace is not an arena where companies are pitted against each other in atomistic competition. Instead, it is a journey across a complex terrain where at points we'll have to rely on our distinctive strengths to progress, and at others, we can work together to advance. There is great potential for collective gain through collaboration among partners along the value chain and even among erstwhile rivals, if we look for the right opportunities. We need to think about multiplying effectiveness because it's not a zero-sum game. And indeed, aside from Ronald Koh's seminal work on the role of firms in coordinating resources, both internally and through the interactions with other firms and the wider economy, the role of firms in coordinating resources, both internally and through the interactions with other firms and wider economy, has not received enough academic attention. Perhaps the members of the ESS can take a closer look at this, especially in the Singapore context. And who knows, you may win the next Nobel Prize for this. Now, on our part, the government will foster conducive macro and microeconomic conditions for all companies to excel. And ultimately, firms and industry must take the lead to create value for their customers by building strong capabilities. Now, let me now speak about the capabilities of our firms. I promise you it's a long speech. Let me speak about the capabilities of our people. Now, factors like the reconfiguration of global supply chains, shifts in consumption patterns, and technological advances are changing the nature of jobs and the skills we need for work, along with how businesses operate. So corporate and human capabilities must go hand in hand, growing in tandem to drive our industry transformation. And that is why jobs and skills form an important pillar of every ITM. Now, these changes will affect what we learn, how we learn, and when we learn. First, what we learn. Now, what we learn should help us realize our potential and build foundations for further learning. Part of this involves learning skills that are relevant to society and economy. Along with domain-specific skills, some general ones, like the ability to work with digital tools and data, will increase in economic significance. Others, like social skills and emotional intelligence, will remain important, not just in the economic sphere, but important in making us effective members of society. Now, we should harness technology to create more value. If we can use artificial intelligence to automate more routine cognitive tasks, for instance, we can then focus on developing uniquely human skills like creativity and open-ended problem solving that will enable us to do higher value work. Next, to keep up with fast-changing skills requirements, how we learn should expand to include learning from all sources and in different settings. Learning does not have to happen in a classroom. It can also happen via new technologies like online platforms or new modalities like on-the-job training or overseas attachments, which can help to integrate theoretical understanding with practical application. Third, when we learn, it should not be confined to the first 2 decades of our life. When you think about it, as we all live and work longer, it is not reasonable to expect us to cram all that we need to know for our entire lives within the first 20-odd years of one's lives. Instead, we should learn throughout life, through on-the-job experience, interspersed with bouts of more intense, modular, full-time training. If we are to change what, how, and when we learn, individuals, institutes of learning, and industry must change our habits and practices significantly. Individuals will have to shift from learning, then doing, to lifelong learning and doing. Instead of just learning before starting work, we should embrace a lifelong cycle of learning and doing. Throughout our careers, we learn the skills that we need for our jobs, hone them by using them at work, and then as the economy evolves, learn a new set of skills, and in turn, put those to use. It is a virtuous cycle of learning and doing. In Mandarin, there's a phrase, 活学活用,学以致用. Living and learning, learning and doing are deeply integrated. So we must each take ownership and be proactive about lifelong learning and doing throughout our lives. And this is what the Skills Future movement is all about. We should also take up opportunities to broaden our experience beyond our shores. Initiatives like the Global Innovation Alliance, for instance, can help us to understand overseas contexts better. Institutes of learning also have a role. For instance, the Ministry of Education has a 21st Century Competencies Framework to help students in our schools develop competencies like responsible decision-making and critical and inventive thinking, encouraging them to become self-directed learners who can keep up learning throughout their lives. Our educational institutions are placing a greater emphasis on skills application and hands-on learning at all levels. Examples include applied learning programs in our secondary schools, the Skills Future Earn and Learn programs in our polytechnics and ITE, and various work-learn programs in our autonomous universities. The Singapore Institute of Technology Integrated Work-Study Program gives students real-world experience through 8 to 12 months of relevant on-the-job training with partner companies. The results are promising. 84% of the first batch of accountancy students received priority job offers from partner companies, and 2 were even able to start in a position above entry level. And almost all the rest found employment within 3 months of graduation. I understand that the second batch has also done very well. Now, employers also benefit. They get 8 to 12 months to assess potential employees and a head start in training them. We should continue to encourage such close collaboration between our educational institutions and industry partners to tighten the link between learning and working. Increasingly, our educational institutions also encourage students to gain overseas exposure through programs like the NUS Overseas Colleges and Polytechnics Overseas Student Internship Program and ITE's Global Education Program. Our universities, polytechnics, and ITE have all embarked on making courses available online. NTU has announced that it will convert some 1,500 courses in 5 years, almost 50% of their pre-employment training courses. NUS has partnered Coursera to launch several massive open online courses. The rest are making progress to make available online modules to support new modes of learning for full-time and part-time students. MOE's Student Learning Space will also use the latest digital tools and modalities of learning to improve educational outcomes. What about industry players? It's encouraging to see many companies are building up their human capital as part of their overall business strategy and reaping significant benefits from this investment. Firms are integrating the development of their people with the redesign of the company processes. For example, in upgrading its Singapore plants into a smart factory, Panasonic upgraded employees' skills to remain relevant. As a result, the median salary of the local staff has increased by 35% without retrenchment. Many companies operate as in-house approved training organizations which provide industry-validated training to their own staff. And examples include Wing Tai, SATS, and McDonald's. Firms that are far-sighted in building corporate capabilities are those that anticipate future skills needs and invest in developing their people. I'm a firm supporter of such efforts. These firms can collaborate with our educational institutions through various work-study programs or work with government agencies. Industry-wide, there is collaboration on human capital developments. And today, there are companies who deliver training programs, not just for their own needs, but for the broader industry. And examples include Ascot and the PBA Group. And the Supply Chain and Logistics Academy is an example of an industry-driven effort that trains supply chain professionals across different companies through experiential workplace learning. I encourage further collaboration. Now, in sum, as jobs and skills requirements change, we will need to transform what we learn, how we learn, and when we learn. Individuals, institutes of learning, and industry will have to work closely with and use new modalities to tighten the link between learning and doing. This will maximize the potential for both corporates and people to make the most of the opportunities ahead. Now allow me to conclude. Finally. Thank you for your patience. The world is facing major structural changes. Singapore is well placed to manage these changes and make the most of the opportunities they bring. We have strong tripartite relations, sound macroeconomic fundamentals, and strong fiscal and virtual connections to the world. If our companies and our people continue to build strong capabilities, we can make the most of these advantages to create unique value for the world and our people. There is no playbook to follow. What we need is the right mindset to be proactive, dare to take risks, and learn from our failures, and recognize that this is a continuous journey of upgrading. And we'll have to work together in a national effort where we each have a role. So I look forward to our people embracing lifelong learning and doing. I look forward to our companies, developing distinctive capabilities while actively collaborating for shared benefits. I look forward to our trade association and chambers playing a leadership role in building industry-wide capabilities to benefit all within their sectors. And I look forward to our educational institutions, and many of you here, continuing to innovate, to bring out the best in our people, and exploring how to better integrate work and study to make lifelong learning and doing a way of life for Singaporeans. And I look forward to all of us coming together, preparing for and riding change with optimism and confidence, with the courage to experiment and the humility to learn from others and from our failures, so that we can make the most of the changes ahead and create good opportunities and good lives for our people. So let us all work together to build our future economy. Let us compete fairly, but collaborate generously, and seek to be greater than the sum of our parts. And let us support one another, especially those of us who are less advantaged, so that we can all advance together. I hope that the ESS too, with your economic expertise, will contribute actively to these efforts. Thank you.